The meeting is going live here shortly.
Hey, stop yelling at me.
Oh, sorry. Didn't know I was.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I'm used to it.
The meeting is going live here shortly.
And Councillor Jensen is joining us, correct? Yeah. Okay, Kim, you're muted, but I can read lips.
Good. So, Mr. Mayor, are your flowers in yet?
This weekend, I think Friday, yeah, we're getting some stuff, so. See what we can get. It's already a stressed
Supply chain?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of frustrating for everyone.
So you still getting your product from Oyen?
Yeah, yeah. We got another company, a couple of companies that we buy from out of the BC for perennials and that. Some of that's coming this weekend, and then I've got an order in with Oyen, but I'm not sure exactly when. So I think we won't wait for Councillor Jensen. We will call this meeting to order because it's 8:30, and you know how I am. So we'll call this meeting to order, and at this time, I'd entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as presented. Thank you, Councillor Bowden. All in favor? And that is carried. That's going to take us right into our delegations. We have Jen and Paul from 818 Studio Limited. I am just going to turn it over to you. I know we got some exciting things to talk about this morning, so we'll just turn it over to you. I'll mute my mic, and again, like the last time, I think we'll just leave all questions till the end of the presentation. That'll just save some time.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much, Mayor. I'm Jennifer, and we have Paul here as well. Maybe just before I get into the images, Paul can give you an update on what he's been doing in terms of engagement.
Good morning, everyone. I just want to give you the heads up. I see there's some names that have been on the mailing list. We've circulated the questionnaire/survey, have had a decent response from good folks acknowledging that they've received it. But in my follow-up calls, there's been about, probably a dozen by now. There does seem to be a bit of a, well, to be honest with you, a sense of impatience. And one of the terms that has been used by some of the people I've talked to is just get it done. So there seems to be a desire to want to be involved, but a bit of perhaps a little frustration in wanting to see this come forward. With what Jen is presenting today, I think will be very helpful in getting that motivation. But I'm not really experiencing any different than in other locales doing other forms of engagement. So please don't take from what I'm saying that the folks don't want to get involved. It's just that I think there's a level of engagement that has already occurred that they're beginning to wonder, what's next and what's coming from it. But all is well.
Okay, thanks, Paul. So I will share my screen. So I believe you all have the package of panels that were circulated yesterday. So as far as engagement, in-person engagement, we're going to go to the farmers market next Wednesday, and then go to all the farmers markets in June, as well as have a storefront for Thursday. Probably we're thinking of Thursdays and Fridays, and it's downtown beside the post office. And we'll have communications going out shortly about that. So I was looking at sort of the May 5th farmers market as like sort of a test to see how our engagement materials are working. So this is the first panel, and I will zoom in and take you through it. That does not work. So we have existing conditions, and there'll be text associated with these as well, explaining some details. And this is a section showing a cross section of Main Street, and then a key map showing the Main Street zone and the transition zone. And we can have the items that we talk about, the elements for revitalizing Main Street can sort of be placed through the transition zone to show that we are, you're approaching the Main Street area. So in terms of streetscape modifications, we've come up with 3 concepts. The first is fairly radical. No parking on Main Street, scooter lanes that are separated from the roadway by concrete buff barriers that could be planted as well, and then wide sidewalks that can accommodate a range of uses from like patios, gathering spaces, event space, even things like that. And then the scooter lanes would continue down Main Street and probably to the side streets as well. And here's just a cross section showing the scooter lanes. Option 2 is more of a medium intervention. The parking turns into parallel parking, and there are bump outs at mid-block and at the intersections that can accommodate extra beautification initiatives. The wider sidewalks would allow for more gathering spaces as well, and patio areas and some planting. And there's the cross section showing that there's scooter lanes on the sidewalk, and they would be delineated by pavement markings. And then the third is a little more not as radical, I guess, with maintenance of the angle parking and mid-block and intersection bump outs to accommodate some gathering and provide some larger areas. And then, so the sidewalks would be maintained at the width they are today. So that's the first panel. And the second one explores site furnishings. So we've put together the existing conditions at the top, where you have the character benches with people having different benches outside their offices or storefronts, the half barrel planters, the square tiered planters as the beautification elements, and then there are pole mounted trash cans downtown. So the 3 collections we put together all have sort of a different look. They all include benches, pedestrian lights, planters, trash cans, and bike racks. And if you want to give feedback on any of those, that's fine as well. And the empty spaces would be where people could vote for which collection they prefer. And then continuing on with the Main Street look and feel, there are a number of different elements, I guess, that can be explored a little further. And the first is gathering. I mean, are people interested in movable seating or benches that are facing each other, or benches at a right angle to each other? How do they want to shape their spaces? And the same goes for the planting palette as well. What's the look and feel that people are interested in seeing on Main Street? For trash and recycling, what does recycling need to be added to the current situation? Bike racks, grouped bike parking, single rack. Perhaps I can add no bike racks. I don't think, I'm not sure if this is a main mode of transportation in the town. And then in terms of the character benches, or character, I guess, do people like having the bench situation as it is now, or would they prefer the benches all to be the same style? And then into the community streetscape, dealing with the safety of pedestrians. Are there intersection bump outs? Is that preferred? Should there be raised crosswalks, pinch points in the blocks to provide extra space for some planting and also slow down traffic? Pedestrian lighting is more of, I guess, the smaller scale lighting to light the pathway as opposed to the road. And then there are quite a few boulevards within Hannah, but should these be expanded to all communities or to all neighborhoods? And then the second is infrastructure. Are painted scooter lanes going to be amenable to people? And then square curbs versus the current situation of rolled curbs in the non-boulevard streetscape. And then what do people want to see on the boulevards? Bioswales for stormwater, pollinator corridors, or more boulevard trees? And then finally is the gateway. We did ask the youth through the high school what ideas they had about the gateway, where they thought the gateway was, and what the sense of place is of Hannah. So they had some really good comments, and I've mapped out the gateways that they identified. They identified actually the ones just on Palliser Trail, but I've added some on Pioneer Trail because there are more ways into the town. And if anybody has any ideas, like should I be including another one at Main Street and Pioneer Trail as well? That would be good to know now. So I think those are the panels. Does anybody have any questions?
Councillor Bowden?
No.
Oh, sorry, you're muted.
Yeah, I'm just figuring that out. Sorry.
That's okay, no problem.
I'm sorry. Just I was wondering how, has there been consideration for snow removal and front delivery and all that sort of thing with the first option with the concrete dividers and such? It looks like it might be a bit of a nightmare for the townspeople clearing their sidewalk and having the snow melt and that sort of thing, as well as the town crews having to clear the snow in the areas. So that was
yeah, we do have discussions all the time about in design whether maintenance should drive design or not. So these are more high-level concepts, and the details of the maintenance can be incorporated into them when they get more defined in detailed design.
Yeah, I'm not sure, if Director Olson would share to comment or regarding that or not.
Well, it would all depend on what taxpayers and what council wants to spend. You add extra sidewalk and scooter trails, that's a different piece of equipment than a grader and a loader.
And more time.
More time,
Yeah.
more angles. With more flower pots is harder. Anytime you have in and out angles, it's harder to backblade and grade. So it all depends on the final concept, what comes up, and then we negotiate from there. But it would all change for sure.
Yeah, thank you. And I think that should be considered when we are looking at planning any further. If that is a concern, then why waste time on an option that is going to be create issues with our workers as well. So that was all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further, Councillor Campion?
Yeah, the addition of trees too on Main Street are gonna create a problem with the roots and everything. Everywhere I've seen them, they're not a good thing. We proved that up on 12th Avenue. So.
Yeah, I think, in my experience, Councillor Campion, just depends on the variety, what type of tree. I know poplars are absolutely known for that. There's some other trees that are deep rooted, so they don't have the surface roots like you experience with the poplars. That's a good point, though. I agree. You have to definitely pick the right variety if you're going to pick a tree. Something fairly slow growing as well, which is I think important. But that's a good point. Anything further to add to that, Jen? Sorry, I didn't want to steal your thunder.
No, that's okay. Elm trees actually are excellent street trees in that respect, and they are yeah, they're long lasting and they don't interfere with the pavement.
Any further questions, comments? Kim, yeah.
Just a comment, Jen. I don't know if it's just because the original concept, original site you used, but it still looks like you have some street light, existing street lights in there. Is the focus still to have existing street light, the large overheads, or is there a reduction in them, or are they not going to be there at all?
I think you would still need the larger streetlights for the roadway lighting. And then it would be the addition of more pedestrian scale streetlights. And the way I've shown it in here, there are pedestrian scale lights, and then at some points the larger Cobra head is integrated with the smaller scale one. So it's like one pole for two intentions.
I just know there are some downtowns that I'm familiar with that basically have eliminated the Cobra style and they just have pedestrian style, and whether they have more of them, I don't know if that there never seemed to be an issue in terms of visibility, in terms of lighting. But I just was curious that we kind of had a mixture there. So
I have a question, Your Worship.
Yeah.
Am I hollering?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. My question is about zoning. So looking at the Main Street zone, the transition zones, is the Main Street is the middle of that what we would refer to as our four-way stop, where the middle of that Main Street, and then it goes out a full block
That's
on
right.
either side? Yes. Okay. And then when we take a look at what we currently have in there, there is a lot of offices or businesses that are Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 at the outmost. So does this plan include changes to bylaw zoning?
Not at this preliminary stage, but if council feels that it should, then we can incorporate that later.
Okay. And then what about storefronts?
In terms of what?
Like a provision, you mean, Lori, for that? Is that what you're?
Continuity, is
Okay.
that part of this process, part of the Main Street streetscape process? Or is it just the same as it is now? Everybody do their own thing and that's cool? Or are you looking for a more unified look to storefronts?
That's a good question.
That's, excuse the interruption, but that's an area of discussion that I'll be having in my interviews following up the surveys, is to get some kind of feel from business owners as to their desire to buy in to a concept that would span the full scope of the development. So within the next couple of weeks, I think I'll be able to give you a pretty good feel based on the individuals I've talked to, just how great the buy-in would be to a streetscaping that would be contiguous throughout the zone.
And then when you present that, will it be broken, when you present all of those findings and even the information that you're gathering, will it be broken down by business owners, people who live in town, because those who live in town will be ultimately paying for it, or visitors to town? Is that?
From my end right now, I'm focused on business owners.
Okay.
And I will provide a pretty comprehensive report relative to the feedback that I've received. The only thing that I kind of commit to is to ensure that the feedback is presented in a summary fashion that doesn't really attribute it to any one individual. We just try and present it more generally. If there are significant criticisms or negative feedback, then we would deal with that on an individual basis. but certainly would not bring what I would call like a minority report, so to speak, into those findings. But I would hope that we can provide council with a pretty good indication to the degree of buy-in by the business owners to the streetscaping.
Thank you.
Councillor Jensen. You're muted still. Sorry. There you go.
Just wondering with when it comes to the businesses and the unified look, I think a lot is going to come down to dollar. And I know we had this discussion previously with our strategic planning and putting money into that. Is that something that council is going to consider, or is there money in the WDED funding that we can kind of incorporate into that? It's just a thought. I think there'd be buy-in if there's financial assistance, but if there's no assistance, it could be very difficult for businesses to reface themselves.
That's a great point, Councillor Jensen. I think there's a little hand in hand here. I think, when the municipality does, whatever design that we come up with, and there is that vast change of just the look of the main street with what we do as a municipality. I think it encourages other businesses to kind of jump on board. I think that's a little bit of the goal. I know in any of my economic training that I've taken over the years, that's kind of and I don't want to use shaming because it's not really what it is. It's just I think people, they start going, oh, this looks really good. We should do this with our business. I think that's kind of the goal. You can't ever force anybody as a business owner. I think my concern would be some of the empty buildings. I think that would be more my concern than the current businesses. That's just my point of view.
Perhaps just to elaborate a little bit, in talking to Kim, when I distributed the questions, I also attached your approved development incentive policy. So each one of the 36 odd businesses that I contacted now have that as a part of my engagement with them. So I'm hoping that I can launch discussions on capitalizing the development based on the BIP program, and then able to relate other funding sources that were so well developed in the tactical plan that 13 Ways did for you. So I'm hoping, and what I envision in the form of a report to you is more than just a personal buy-in, but an indication of the degree of participation in your development incentive program, and then by area with that business where we can show funds can be leveraged through other sources. And those other sources I've been using are the ones that were developed and identified in the way forward and in the tactical plan.
Awesome. Thank you. Councillor Bowden had a question, I think, first, Kim.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry, I'd forgotten to acknowledge Paul and Jen for the work they've done. It looks great. But I do have another question regarding parking as well. So if we're removing parking from the downtown, is there an alternative, or have you identified an area for the parking?
Oh, Jen, you're mute. It doesn't look like you're muted, but I can't hear you.
There you go.
There you go.
I haven't delved too deeply into that, but I did notice there are some parking areas on the other side of, I guess, the block from Main Street, certainly to the south.
But, as far as it's directly right off of Main Street. We have a lot of seniors in our community, and I believe a lot of them go to the chiropractor downtown, things of that nature. So having easy access for handicapped or for seniors to park close by, if these parking stalls are already taken, in my opinion, it would be very valuable to have more parking directly, right, directly off of Main Street for easy access to whichever vendor they're looking at.
Mhm. And there can, like, the final concept could certainly include a mix of parking. So in some areas it could be angle parking if there's extra density needed, and then other areas the parallel parking. So I don't think that it's necessarily just going to be one of these concepts that gets, the most votes. It'll probably be spread amongst probably concept 2 and 3, and so that we can incorporate parts of each in the final concept.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I like concept 3 as far as being able to, it's kind of condensed right in front of most of the businesses that might be getting a lot of visitors and that sort of thing. So thank you very much for the work you're doing.
Okay, thanks.
I think probably most of us here agree that concept 1 is probably out of the question. Specifically to what Councillor Bowden just said, I think we have to have some parking on Main Street itself. That's just what I see. Kim?
Just a couple of comments. So for council's recollection, so the development incentive program that Paul talks to, there is some funding opportunities in there for our downtown businesses, or for all our businesses, but right now the storefront dollars that we have assigned to it are quite limited. So that might be something that future council may want to address in terms of putting more money into that component of the incentive program. The other thing that we have acknowledged in the development incentive program is the tax incentive. So if a business is going to upgrade their building and their property significantly, then there is a provision in there where they can save on the tax component of that new assessment. So there's a little bit of an incentive there. Again, not necessarily capital dollars, but would be able to, someone improve their property by $100,000, that they wouldn't necessarily be taxed on that $100,000 improvement immediately. There is a process there. The other thing, and I agree with Mr. Mayor, that at some point in time, the property owners have to invest and they have to take responsibility. It's not totally on the town's dime to go in and fix up everybody's storefront, which will then increase their property, increase their business. At the end of the day, if there's some sort of sharing or cooperative program or some alternative dollars, I think we need to look at all those options. So I just wanted to remind council about the existing programs. They may need to be amped up and bumped up as we move forward, especially with this process. The other thing for Paul and Jen, one of the original, I guess, theories around our downtown and improving our downtown was the talk of creating people spaces and or the ability to have the streets closed down and have weekly markets or weekly events. So we need to make sure that whatever concept we want to incorporate will work well for those types of events, because I know that was a big driver through the strategic plan, was the ability to have events downtown and bring people to downtown as a gathering area. So I just wanted to make sure that those comments were still, fresh and still in your thoughts as we move forward looking at these concepts. The other question I guess I have for Jen and Paul, when it comes to parking, do you plan or do we have any ability to do some sort of parking study so we can, evaluate how many cars are parked on the street at a given time? I know we can't necessarily plan our parking for peak times, but I know if we're talking about reducing parking, whether it's with angle, whether it's with parallel, I still think we need to be able to accommodate, the average parking requirements on a day-to-day basis for our businesses. And yes, we do have a large public parking lot just to the south of the block. And it is for most people, mobility, without any mobility issues, it's probably not a big issue. But, I just want to, because I can look down the street at any different times and I might see 4 cars parked. I might see 12 cars parked on average. I just wondered if, it'd probably be nice to have a feel as to what would be the number of parking stalls, that that would accommodate the majority of our day-to-day needs. So those are my only comments. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And do you want to comment, Jen, at all on that?
We can certainly explore an additional scope of work for looking at parking. Maybe you just want to look out the window, every 15 minutes and count cars.
And from my experience, like even just driving downtown, through regular weekdays, there are certainly hot spots in the town where there is always kind of seems to be vehicles parked there. But we can certainly, looking at concept 3 for me, I think is probably the most logical one. I think parallel parking might take away too many parking places. But I'll go do a throwback and date myself a little bit. Our business used to be downtown, right by the special areas building, and we never parked on Main Street when we worked. We parked in the town parking lot on the south side there. So things have changed over the years. I think all the business owners downtown virtually parked in the town parking lot and left the space in front of their businesses for their customers parking. So things change and morph, and if this kind of encourages something like that, I guess that's okay too. But I do share the same sentiment as Councillor Bowden, that we have an aging society and our residents are aging, and it's nice to make sure that they have that accessibility. Director Moe, you had a question or comment?
Yes, I don't know if it should be a part of this discussion or not, but I just wondered in the grand planning of this and everything, about the infrastructure and engineering future plan for the below ground water sewer structure there. Was that considered or taken into consideration? It would seem to be a shame to if we go ahead and create one of these concepts that failure of the infrastructure, sooner than later would be quite a detriment to having to tear up all of that stuff to replace that one block of infrastructure. So I don't know where in our engineering plan what the longevity of the current infrastructure is at this time.
I think our plan is to do everything, Director Moe. I think rip it right down and change it all. I think that's been our plan, I think, all along, I think.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, there'd be no, we'd be putting good money after bad if we simply just focused on the surface. We need to deal with the underground because it is aged. Knock on wood, we haven't had a ton of issues with it, but we know that it's aged, and we've got camera work on the sewer lines. So we know that before we want to spend any substantial dollars above ground, that we need to deal with the issues underground.
Yeah. Good. Thank you. Yeah.
Councillor Bowden.
Sorry, I have one more comment. Regarding the frontage of our businesses, there are a few that have invested and received some of the grant money already for frontage upgrades. But I'm just hoping that when we're looking at redoing, should we, the frontages and such, that be considered. And just the attractive ones that we do have downtown, the dental clinic, the chiropractor office, Connie's building, and those things be maybe incorporated or set as a basis to start for any other, or somehow blend those in so that we're not asking them to redo again, or to meet our design, that has been considered, and the others, as sort of a blend. And I just ask maybe that be considered as a note. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. So Jen, I'm going to just any further questions from council? we'll just kind of try to wrap this up a little bit and give a little direction perhaps. So you did ask a question regarding, well, kind of on the gateway aspect of it. You know, on the Pioneer Trail, I kind of would like to maybe see from us, and I don't know if there's costing involved in the work that you're doing, but it might be nice to have a Cadillac and a Buick, maybe just because I'm thinking we do have limited funding that we have access to, so it might be nice to maybe see one as far as the gateway aspect of it, maybe have one only focus on the west entrance, and maybe the other one focusing on east and west, as in Pioneer and Fox Lake or Palliser. I'm just asking if that's because it'd be nice to have maybe a couple options.
Yep, that sounds great.
Okay, good. All right, is there any further questions then? I'll just give it one more time. All right, thank you. I love the concepts that you've presented early, and just regarding Paul, your comment on emails. Did all of council get an email regarding survey?
I can't answer that question accurately.
And I'm not looking for one. I'm just not
No.
sure. I don't think I got one, but trust me, I got enough things to do. I don't.
Okay,
have to.
I will check, Mayor Warwick, but I know Connie was on that mailing list.
Okay.
But I was, and Tammy and I focused more on the businesses. So
Absolutely.
the way council would have got on that, obviously, is, you know, being a part of that. But if council would like to see what I'm asking, Kim does have the full list of questions. I did talk to Mark, so there's been a bit of a revision, Kim, from the feedback you've given me, but the essence of the questions are still there. And bottom line, what I'm really trying to do for Jen and for council is to give you an indication of the degree of buy-in by those businesses and the financial impact to the town of Hannah on how committed they are. So in a real-time example, I hope that by the time this engagement is done, council is going to have a real good idea of the financial commitment they're going to have to make to this development incentive program and where the other funds are going to come.
Fantastic. That's exactly what we're looking for.
Awesome.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. And we look forward to the next presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Very good to see you, Glenn.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you very much. And I would entertain a motion that council thanks the representatives from 818 Studio Limited for their update on the Hannah Community Development Project. Thank you, Councillor Olson. All in favor? And that is carried. And I don't see anybody here for public presentations. So Kim, I'm going to ask, since Councillor Campion needs to leave at 10. Maybe we should do our spring budget adjustment report first, just so that he can get all the information out of that first. Not that your report isn't important, but just for the sake of in case he has to leave. So we'll move on to item 6.1.
Yeah, no, Mr. Mayor, no issues with that. So I'm going to try, I think the easiest way for me to move forward through it is if I can share my screen. I don't know if I can do that, but I'm going to try.
Laurie, I'll make that happen. I'm positive.
So what do I need to do, Laurie? I clicked on screen share, but nothing, or share screen, nothing came up. Am I able just to open this and are you guys good?
I can't see it right now. Laurie's doing something.
Oh, I think she's on her way to my office.
Oh, I see. Okay.
That's probably the fastest way.
I thought she might have been at home. Okay, never mind.
That's probably the fastest way. At least I hope that's what she's doing.
I don't know when I can't see. So if you do share screen.
Okay, that didn't come up before. So.
Oh, okay, and you're away. Then
So now, but how do I pull this screen up?
You just pick which one.
Oh, it's right here.
Yeah.
Okay. And then just put share.
Yeah.
Look
How's
at you.
that?
You're a tech genius.
I'd like to say I figured that out on my own, but that
Yeah.
would be a lie.
I was gonna say, Laurie might have to watch out for a job if you keep that up.
No, she's
Okay.
pretty safe for me. So
I'm
I'm just
gonna
gonna go to that page.
Okay, I'm gonna mute Kim and just let you
Okay.
run with this.
Okay. Fit. Oh, that didn't work for me here. Let me just slide this over. There, can everybody see that? Okay. So as we move forward, Mr. Mayor, I'm just going to go through this. I know you got it late last night, so I probably don't have had a chance to go through it in depth, and we're not going to, as I said, not making any decisions today. It's just a discussion in preparation for the May council meeting. So when we approved our budget in December, the 21 budget had a surplus of $21,000 at that point in time. So this revised budget that we're going to go through anticipates a deficit of $5,000 as it sits right now. Assessment levels, I think everybody understands our assessment levels have decreased again. So they decreased by 4,180,000, of which 3,385,000 was residential decrease, and non-residential was 609. The non-residential has been holding its own or going up for most of the last number of years. The biggest difference here on the non-residential is there's probably 2 large properties that have had a significant readjustment on assessment that probably makes up the majority of that. Other than that, I think most of our other non-residential properties assessment stayed pretty consistent. Exempt assessment increased by 185,000, decreased by 185,000. So as we're going to be preparing to set the tax rate, we know that as the goal of this budget is to bring in the same municipal tax revenue as we brought in 2020. So with our assessments going down, our municipal tax rates are going to have to increase. We're proposing that the municipal residential tax rate would probably increase by 2%. At the end of the day, I think the taxes levied that an individual will receive will be very similar to what they got in 2020. Some may go down. It'll really be a game of how much did your assessment go down versus the average. So if your assessment went down more than the average assessment went down, you'll probably see a slight decrease. If your assessment didn't drop as much as the average, you might see a slight increase. But I think overall, it's going to be very comparable to the 2020 tax rate. Same with the non-residential, we would be looking at increasing that tax rate by 0.93%, so just under 1%. Again, those businesses whose taxes did not, or assessment did not change, would see a slight increase to their taxes. Those that saw decreases to their assessment would probably remain pretty close to where they have been in the past. The end of this, we are basically looking at bringing in $2,814,000 in municipal tax revenue, as opposed to $2,814,642. So there's about $100 difference in what we're proposing to bring in from last year to this year. So we're trying to keep it as consistent as we can to previous years. Budget adjustments, again, COVID is still affecting our operations, primarily on the public recreation side more than anything. These comments were in last year in terms of municipal taxes allocated. We had a pretty good year in terms of taxes being paid. It wasn't a significant difference due to COVID that people couldn't pay their taxes. Most businesses and and residential people. There was no noticeable difference between taxes collected pre-COVID or taxes collected COVID. Similar to even utility rates, I think for the most part, the utilities that we've charged have been, paid on a pretty similar rate to previous years pre-COVID. So, but I know last year when we did this, there was significant concern at the beginning as to whether people were going to be able to pay their taxes, pay their utility bills. And as a result, we did lower our tax penalties, and we've left them lower in 2021. Again, the budget anticipates the swimming pool will be open as originally planned, May long weekend. Following COVID guidelines, we think they're anticipated to be similar to the 2020 restrictions. One of the differences, I think, which might be interesting, depending how long our provincial mask bylaw stays in place, is technically probably as you walk into the building, you're be required to have your mask on until you exit the building. So again, that'll be a challenge that we'll work through. Council's aware the Visitor Information Center, the hub, is going to manage the retail component of it and the operation of the center. Community center has either been closed or restricted to very small attendance, which basically has limited or no bookings because people aren't booking any of our facilities for a 10-person thing. So again, we're not anticipating that changing until maybe September 1st. It might be earlier than that, but I still think even when they start to open up, things are still going to be a little slow on the uptake. I don't imagine, and I could be wrong, that people are going to all of a sudden jump into wanting to have a 300-seat fundraiser and people feel comfortable moving in there. But we've kind of reduced that. We were very fortunate to have Heartland in there for the month of March. That was a significant boost to our revenue in that regard. As council is aware, the arena has been able to open for minor hockey and figure skating as of February 8. It was closed from December 13th on, but they were only able to practice or run their activities. So there was no games, there was no real additional usage of the facility, and our revenue from February to March was probably approximately a third to half of what it normally would have been based on them not having games. So there's some loss of revenue there. Curling rink was closed basically as of December 13th. So there's no revenue there. And the revenue from the curling rink in the winter is basically what we bill the curling rink for their use of the facility. We do know we have the weekly farmers market starting, which is good, but the spring rummage sale was canceled. We're still anticipating that a fall rummage sale will occur. Rodeo will proceed, and quite possibly the gun show in late July may proceed as well. So there still is some optimism there. Bowl diamonds and soccer fields, we believe that the minor associations will be able to proceed and will have a season, but it may look different from the fact that at this point in time, I don't think they can go out and play games or travel and play other teams. Currently, adult team sports are still not technically permitted. So if there was a slow pitch league that started up, they technically would be in violation. Doesn't mean that if Mayor Warwick and some buddies want to go out and throw the ball around and play scrub, I certainly don't think there's any issues with that. So we're still working through our Epic Adventures program. We think it will probably proceed in a similar manner to 2020, but we're going to still monitor where things go with COVID and what opens up and being able to provide a service. Going to go through just some of the changes on the revenue side. So as we said, the municipal tax revenue is virtually the same as what was budgeted for in 2020. School tax revenue, which we don't have any control over. So our requisition from the province this year is $20,000 higher than 2020. So that will be generated and collected by our residential properties as well as our non-residential properties. So on people's tax notices, again, we only control the municipal portion. So if people look at their tax notice and say, my taxes went up significantly, a portion of that may be to the school. And a portion of that may be to Acadia. Acadia has increased their requisition by 15,000. So we need to collect that through the taxes as well. So there will be some increases in the tax rate for both the school and Acadia as well. Administration, some of the highlights, I think we've shared this with council. We've got an increase in our operating grant, MSI operating grant, about $4,000. We have a reduction in lease revenue for the Anchor Glass lease because we've sold that property. So we won't be able to collect that lease from them. But that in turn means that there's less exempt property, so they'll be taxed on that property. Police, again, very minor. We've reduced the fine revenue in our budget just on the 3-year average. Fire training program, we missed bringing this in at the December meeting, but there is about $8,500 of deferred grant revenue that we'll bring forward, and there's $8,500 in expenditures on the other side. So it's a net wash to the budget. Streets and roads, as council is aware, our federal gas tax was doubled. So actually a little more than doubled because our allocation went up slightly and then it was doubled. So this budget, our original budget included 146,000 from federal gas tax. In 2021, we're going to get 306. So an increase of 160,000. And our MSI capital, we've set increase from 169. That's the net difference. So it actually was 600. We had 572 in the budget. It went to 684. We've allocated 375,000 to a future fire engine, but we're able to increase in the streets and roads area the contribution by 140,000. So that's for long-term infrastructure upgrades. Water, slight reduction just based on our 3-year average. When we prepare our budget in December, of course, we don't have all of our actuals in. So there is we provide some estimates, but we were slightly high in those. So we'll reduce our water consumption. Sewer, we increased by 13,000. It was unexpended in 2020, and that's for camera sewer work. We didn't do as much as we anticipated we were going to do in 2020. So we set that money aside and we'll bring it back and try and get that done in 2021. Regional waste, this is one that was omitted. Councillor Campy and I have discussed this one. So our regional waste requisition from Big Country, we just got our first invoice last week and it's gone up $34,000. So what our intention to manage that is, we collect that through our utility rates. So we will have an increase. We will be coming back to council to increase the utility rate on the regional waste fee. And it's probably going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of about $6 per billing period. And the reason it's $6 is that we'll have missed collecting the January, February, March, April bills. So we're collecting the increase on the last 8 months. So it'll be a little bit higher, but it'll be somewhere in the neighborhood of about $6 a billing period or $3 a month per property. FCSS, just we had a reduction in the transfer from reserves, the Carrington speaking event and UFA donation. So we already have paid the deposit for the Carrington evening. It just has been delayed because of COVID for over a year now. So cemetery, minor increase on 3-year average. Tourism, we pulled out $1,200 revenue, no event card revenue, and I anticipate based on COVID that we're not going to be jumping into putting some event cards out this year. So we've pulled that out. In the budget, we didn't put this in the budget, but I think council will remember in 2020, PEP provided the town of Hannah a contribution of $10,000 to go towards the livestock / agricultural hub exploration. The town still has that dollars. We put it in reserve. What will happen in 2021 is when Cactus needs that money to move forward, they will invoice the town, the town will pay them that money. So it's been in reserve. It's not a change to our tax revenue. We just didn't pull it forward in December. Again, a decrease in revenue on the VIC, and that's basically the retail sales that we're going to be losing by not operating the visitor information center. Recreation, a decrease in goods and services revenue, and those are primarily picnic table, chair rentals, as we're not back into full-blown event mode and people doing things. We did see an increase in our federal employment grants, which was good, of $18,000. That's for summer students, basically. And we're going to draw from reserves $6,100 for the Hannah Dance Grant that was allocated to the storage. It was in reserves. We were going to bring it forward for storage, but we're bringing it forward for the dance floor. And again, we decreased work bill to others. Primarily, that decrease is a result of the rummage sale. We still will have dollars in there if we are having a rodeo and if we're having a fall rummage sale where our staff do a portion of the setup for them. Swimming pool, and this will be in capital too. We had a junior Olympic heater replacement budgeted in 2021. We've looked at it, looked at the heater. We've had our plumbers look at the heater. They think it's in very good shape still and will get us through another season. So we've pulled that project and bumped it to 2022. Funds are in reserve for it. But we feel that we're not going to do it in 21. We're trying to get the longest life we can out of our assets. So we feel comfortable we can stretch it a year. As on the arena, as we talked, we've reduced our revenues on the arena side by $50,000 from originally anticipated. As you'll know, we anticipated when we prepared the budget in December that we were going to have a normal year. Obviously, shortly after we approved the budget, the arena was closed, didn't open until February, and opened on restricted time. So we were down rental revenues. We've reduced sponsorship. Some of our businesses have not been comfortable paying for arena signage when we've had limited use. And minor hockey hasn't operated their concessions, so there's a loss of revenue there. So those kind of are the three areas. The biggest chunk of that is the reduced rental revenues, but that's kind of a reduction at the arena. Again, curling rink, reduction on the revenue side, 22.5, because we had no curling season. So we're not able to bill those costs back to the curling club. Ball diamonds, we're going to assume a minor season, currently no adult sports, but hoping that as we move forward throughout the spring that things change and we can have some adult stuff and they can have their tournament. Soccer, again, assuming a minor season, although both of them may look a little bit different. Fox Lake Park, we're going to open May 15th, following COVID guidelines, which will be very similar to our 2020 operations. So we will have our shower will be open, our change house, all of that. So I think the biggest, when we talk COVID guidelines, the biggest thing will be they will still be not wanting 4 campsites to get together and hang out as in a group situation. Parks, we have we reduced the revenue in the parks for the spray park landscaping. So we've got what is in here right now that is the worst case scenario. So we've got the full amount of the landscaping in the capital, and right now we've reduced the contribution from the committee to $2,400, which is commitment they have right now. They do have grant applications still being processed, and we're hoping that that number will significantly go up, but we've decided to put worst case scenario in at this point in time. And again, in parks, we're showing the donation from the Hector King Hunter Park Association, the 15,000. On the expenditure side, you'll see we've transferred that to reserves for future upgrades to the park. So Epic, we've talked about, no change to the budget. Library, this was a capital project in 2020 we didn't complete, that we didn't bring forward. We're not sure what we're going to do there, but it's basically the alley on the north side is flush with the building, and so we get water that will go up against the side of the building, and it's, you know, damaging some of the window wells below, which are wood. So we've got to try and figure out a situation to fix that there. Centennial Place, again, is another one of our facilities impacted significantly by COVID. We were basically closed in the month of January, opened in February. Kitty's Corner, sorry, has been using it all along, but dance was able to start in February, and we did have some limited use of the fitness center, limited use of the walking track through till I think the last set of restrictions, when basically they said the only other activity that could be in there adult wise is if you have a certified trainer with you. So that cut back any of our bookings in the fitness center, any of our bookings on the walking track. So as you can see, we've dropped our rental and drop-in fee revenue. Our lease agreement slightly, not a lot, because Kitty's Corner has been able to move forward and have their program pretty much as normal. Hannah Dance has been affected a little bit, so we'll be looking at prorating their agreement based on when they were able to use the facility. Sponsorship contribution is fairly close to normal. We've increased the draw from surplus for the LED lighting project. And again, we decreased the draw for reserves for the dance flooring project and decrease in the fitness center revenue, which is the actual fitness center component. So, because people aren't able to use it. Community center, again, we had reduced our expectations on the community center in December for revenue, and we've lowered it slightly again now, but Heartland was a big help to us. And I think here, again, as I said before, there is rental opportunities, but because of the restrictions, no one's using it. But hopefully from September on, we can start to see some more usage, but we're assuming that we're not going to be back to a normal September to December usage. Same with Lions Hall. We've reduced it because it's in the same boat as the community center. So those are kind of the highlights on the revenue side in terms of changes. Expenditures, changes, we've talked about school revenue, KDA requisition, council. So we've looked at the council budget. We've made a decrease to our meeting per diems because there hasn't been, certainly the meetings have certainly been very limited to date. There's still, don't get me wrong, there still is money in there as we move forward out of COVID, and there are more meetings happening and more per diems. We've increased the travel and subsistence as a result, and we decreased goods. That was primarily council meals that we would normally budget for that we haven't been having. And we've increased our public relations. We've got, and I guess news for council today is Kathy Lee has informed us that she is going to be retiring this late around the end of summer. So that's another retirement that we've put some money in to, you know, deal with whether it's a retirement gift, whether it's a retirement function, whatever, just so that we've got some dollars there to deal with that. Administration, some salary and benefit savings. decrease in our travel and subsistence. Again, we're not going anywhere either. Our workers' compensation premiums reduced significantly, so there's a savings there. Again, decrease in training, and again, a decrease in our goods areas. We had allocated the Wi-Fi hotspot upgrades to administration goods. We've reallocated that to each of the respective departments. Same with the computer costs, we've reallocated them to their respective departments. And of course, the increase in the grant to the senior circle, which council made that decision last council meeting. Tax recovery, adjusted power and gas, just to reflect 2020 average. Again, the province we had $48,000 budgeted for our contribution to RCMP in 2020. The actual amount came to 48,498 something, and the government rounded it up to 48,500. So we've increased that to match the invoice. We talked about the East Central Emergency Training Partnership. So that's money that we will be expending, but it was matched by grant revenue on the other side. By law, we decreased travel and training, common services, and you'll see in a number of our areas, we'll be showing salary and benefit savings. That will be basically not filling positions and or staff away on long-term disability. So there's a savings, salary and benefit savings in common services. We've got some increases for goods, repairs, power and heat. A lot of those are generated based on our 3-year averages. So those are some general ones there. Streets and roads, again, a salary and benefit saving. Our streetlight, our 3-year average has decreased on our streetlights. So savings there. And then here, this 300,000 is an increased transfer to capital reserves. That's a result of the increase in the federal gas tax and the increase in the MSI capital. So our plan is to take that money, transfer it into capital reserves to do a larger project in 2022 or 2023. So airports, some minor adjustments to operating costs. Generally, there'll be insurance and probably power and gas 3-year averages. Water, again, we decreased on the revenue side, so we decreased on the consumption side, the expenses. So that would be what we would pay to Henry Kruger. Again, some salary and benefit savings, a decrease in travel and training, and a decrease in goods. Sewer, small savings in salary and benefits, another decrease in goods, repairs, etc. Here's the increase from the commission that will be offset by the additional revenue we need to bring in the utility bill. Salary and benefit savings in FCSS. That goes back to having a couple of staff off on long-term disability. So there's some savings there. Business and communication, the $10,000 is basically the PEP contribution we talked about earlier. So it's an in on the revenue side and out on the expense side. The increase for goods is primarily the couple of computers for business and communication staff. And that's the biggest chunk of that. Visitor Information Center, you saw a decrease of $19,000 on the revenue side. You'll see a decrease of $32,000, almost $33,000 on the expenditure side. We still do have expenses for utilities, insurance. We're responsible for the R&M in the building. We're still responsible for the turf management, irrigation, flowers, all that stuff. So there still is expenses there, but with the hub taking over, the difference between the revenue and the expenditures about $13,000–14,000 savings to the town. Recreation, small salary and benefit savings, and then again the grant to the Hannah Dance Association. We've pulled that out of capital and just making it as an operating grant to the association. Seasonal pool, we've looked at our seasonal salaries, inputted all our times, and we've increased that slightly. And some changes to capital, and we'll talk about that in the capital area. Arena, we're assuming will be fully operational in September. So there was the only other change to the budget was a minor increase to repairs for the Wi-Fi hotspot. Park shop, we've had some repairs that we've had to incorporate in terms of our overhead doors needed some work. The Wi-Fi hotspot for the park shop has been allocated there, and there was an opportunity with the Lions moving out to create an additional office, and there's a little bit of a cost to office renovation there. So curling rink, again, this is primarily a decrease in the subsidy for the curling club. So you see on the revenue side, we've got a loss of 22,000. We normally, as our agreement, we subsidize that loss by a third. So that represents that third that we will save. And again, the increased repairs, maintenance, power, biggest chunk of that 2,400 is the Wi-Fi hotspot upgrade. Ball diamond soccer, so we've increased that by $4,500, but we moved that from capital to operating, and it's basically for bleachers. Our staff have already replaced 3 sets of the wood on 3 sets of bleachers, and have 3 more to go. So we're doing that in-house when we get a chance. Fox Lake Park, again, we're planning to open on the 15th. A couple of savings. Our new contractor comes in at a slightly lower contracted rate. So there's some savings there, and there's a decrease in goods and power based on 3-year averages. Parks, again, same thing, decrease in goods and power on a 3-year average. We do have an increase of 26,000 in parks, and it's in capital, and we'll go through that in the capital side. Hector King Hunter Park, again, that 15,195 they gave us on the revenue side, we are taking that and expensing it to reserve for future upgrades of Hector King Hunter Park. And we just recently changed all the lights on the pathway out to LED lights. So there's a $1,500 cost there. Epic, no real changes there. And again, that program is still fluid at this point in time. Library, we've increased. We talked about it on the expense side. This is from deferred revenue to fund the water diversion project. Centennial Place, again, with the facility not being open, we've got a decrease in part-time salaries of just under $12,000 and a decrease in power. We got into a new rate structure in 2020. Of course, COVID hit, so we're not able to tell exactly how that changed. And then I think council's aware late in 2020, we had all the lights changed to LEDs. So we believe that there'll be a decrease in the power consumption and power usage there too. So community center, again, based on not probably being able to operate much until September, we've been able to decrease our contracted services. So our initial budget reflected having a caretaker contracted at halftime. This budget now reflects having a caretaker contracted at a quarter time. So if we're able to open in September, we'll go probably half, and we don't think we'll open up full time. So we'll probably look at arranging to go half of what we would normally pay the contractor for those months. And again, if we're not into those, there'll be a savings there on that side too. And then just a general decrease to goods, repairs, utilities. Certainly the facility's not open and being used, so we're not using toiletries and toilet paper and paper towels. It's not being used, so there's no repairs. Generally not a lot of repairs, and our utilities are slightly down because there's no use. Again, a lot of these are fluid in terms of, and there's some other minor adjustments we haven't included just based on 3-year averages that maybe changed an area by $50 or $100. just so you aware, and it's throughout the budget, our overall insurance costs increased by $7,600. So we had anticipated a 2% increase in our insurance, and it probably came into being somewhere in the neighborhood of 4%. So, and you'll see it's interesting. Looks like all of our vehicles and equipment, they've generally come down, but the building insurances have gone up significantly. So, but overall about 7,600. So town insurance for the year is $110,000. So now we'll move into capital. Not a lot of changes here. No change to the fire department. Common services, an increase of $8,000, and that was the excavator trailer purchase. So that council authorized last council meeting. No change to the screener. Airport, no change to the runway lights. Again, that's grant dependent. No change to the meter reader booster. No change to the columbarium. In the pool, couple of changes. So when we originally put the budget together in December, we had the pour in place spray park landscaping at $24,000, and we had it in parks. So we've moved it from parks into pool, and we've increased it to $35,000. As we've talked before, the $15,000 pool heater, we've moved that project to 2022. And we had money in to replace the Junior Olympic pool pump. We've been able to come in less under budget there. So a savings of $2,000 on that capital project. No change to any capital at the arena or curling rink or Fox Lake Park. Parks, this is the big one. So our tennis court resurfacing, we were severely out to lunch on our estimate for the tennis court resurfacing. So we have got a quote this spring, and it was $75,000 to resurface the tennis courts in total. So that we've increased this budget by 50 to accommodate for that. And again, as I said before, parks will show a decrease of 24,000 because we moved the landscaping to pool from parks. Library, no change there. Centennial Place, the only changes were we've taken out the storage project and we've dealt with the dance floor project as council directed at the last council meeting. And we had forgot to bring this forward. We transferred the dollars from 2020 into reserve, but to do an increase or to do a security system upgrade. So that money's from reserves that we would bring back that we didn't do in 2020. Again, according to the MGA, we must adopt a balanced budget. So right now this is short $5,000. So if there's no other changes to this, we would be basically looking at bringing in $5,000 from accumulated surplus to balance the budget as it sits. So I think that's it, Mr. Mayor. Sorry for rambling on, but our goal would be to, at the May meeting, to bring this, these changes for council approval and then set the tax rate at the May 11th meeting.
Okay, good, thank you. Any
Do
questions?
I need to share, or is it easier for me if I stop sharing?
You could probably stop sharing. That's
Okay.
That's fine. I think we all have it.
Okay.
So are there any questions? Councillor Bowden?
Yes, I didn't see any accounting for farmers market revenue under the curling rink.
Well, there's no change. We accounted for that at the beginning of the year, like in our December budget.
These are just budget adjustments.
These are just
Councillor Bowden.
changes from December to now, so.
Right. So I guess it'd just be a matter of dollars if with the increase that they are going to be charged. I also had a question about the money for, oh shoot, actually I'll go to skate park. Has anything been done with the skate park regarding the damaged equipment from years ago and whether or not it's been replaced? Or
We have some funds in in our operational budget for it. And we do have, I think if council recalls, we did allocate, I don't have it handy here, we did allocate some dollars in 2022 for a significant upgrade to the park. And I know there's been a group at the school under the leadership of Kelly Lewis that have been looking at that. And so we've been trying to work with them on what they would like to see and how we can work together on that. But we have allocated dollars in our 22 capital budget for significant skate park upgrades.
Mr.
And I'll
Mayor,
wait. Yeah. I'll wait for
Okay,
the other-
yeah, Director Snell, you want to?
I just want to make a clarification in regards to Councillor Bowden's comment regarding damaged equipment. All of our playground equipment, including the skate park, are inspected. We have a qualified inspector that inspects that on a regular basis. So anything that's operational is not broken or unsafe at this time.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. There was a piece of equipment that was damaged years ago
Yes,
and
yeah.
taken out of place, and that was what my reference was to. And yes, no, I greatly appreciate all the work that your group does to maintain the playgrounds and such.
Okay, any other questions, Councillor Bowden? Was that it?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Olson.
I guess I don't know how much we want to have discussion here next meeting, but my preference would be to not raise that 2% and pull from surplus for that $55,000 to $60,000 difference. So yeah, I guess we can have the discussion then. But that would be my preference if that was moved forward.
Mr. Mayor, I'd prefer to have the discussion here because then when we bring our tax rate bylaw, which will be at the next meeting, then we're not trying to guess or anticipate what that's going to be. So if there is some consensus from council in regards to that, we certainly will move forward that way.
Okay, Councillor Bowden.
Yes, I would support Kyle Olson's recommendation that we do not increase, and either that money comes from tightening our belts more or from surplus.
Councillor Jensen, then Councillor Deadlock.
I also agree. That was one thing that I was going to mention.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Deadlock.
With raising it to 2%, the taxes that people pay don't actually go up. So I don't know if it matters to me one way or the other if we change that 2%, because people aren't going to actually get a raise in their taxes. Is that correct?
It just depends on your previous year's assessment versus this year's assessment. So yeah, I mean, some may go up, some may go down, even with the 2% increase. So, and that's the problem with assessment and tax rates in municipalities is it's not an exact science because it does depend on the assessment. I think, and a great example is my store. I think our assessment went down probably about 2%. So, you know, an increase in 2% to the taxes here at the store probably would have a net zero change. So, but that doesn't mean somebody else might not be affected a little greater. So it's an unfortunate thing because it isn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I mean, I you know, whatever council feels as a consensus, you know, whatever, it's fine. Councillor Campion.
You're still on mute.
Yeah, there you go.
No, I agree with, I don't agree with that. I agree, put 2% on it, but taking out of reserves, it makes us look like we're trying to cover something up. And with the years we got ahead of us, like with the one now with COVID and what's coming, 2% is minor because it's better to give them, put a 2% on if it's not really affecting the tax cost to the properties. Put it on there because it's easier to do 2 now than do 5 or 6 next year.
So just to clarify, so we're all on the same page. So basically, I guess the recommendation from Councillor Olson would be to leave the tax rates at the same as the tax rates were for 2020. So that will mean we will generate less municipal revenue, which Councillor Olson would want to offset by transfer from reserves or from accumulated surplus. But that probably means, and just so we're clear, that probably means that I would say pretty much everybody who has a residential property would see a decrease in the taxes they pay. I know we just did a scenario with the existing proposed increase of 2% to the residential tax rate, and using my property as an example, even with the increase in the tax rate, my assessment drop, I save, my taxes would still go down $12. That doesn't mean somebody's isn't going to go up $12 or $20. It really just depends on how your assessment changes to the average. But we certainly will go whichever direction council wants. But if we leave the tax rates the same, it basically means everyone will see a reduction in their taxes. And if that's what council wants to do and bring that from surplus, certainly that's the direction we'll move forward with.
Okay, Councillor Jensen and then Councillor Bowden.
I just think that would be nice. I think a lot of people have seen financial difficulties through COVID, and the decrease is just kind of, I guess, a bonus and not having to pay more for the residents. And the optics with the financial assistance that we've provided and the loan waive that we've offered in those meetings, that had been mentioned that we had not increased taxes. So following those decisions and then increasing taxes, I think is bad optics, in my opinion.
Fair enough, yeah. Councillor Bowden?
Yes, I would have to support that. And just the fact that, yeah, COVID has been, damaging for everybody, and they have not been able to use our facilities and things of that nature. So if we're saving money for the fact that we are closed, then I think we should show a 0% increase in our taxes and the tax rate. And then at least we can say, if their taxes have been increased, that it is not due to the town, it's due to the school and the lodge. So that I'm strong about. Thank you.
And the school tax, that's a good point. Without going up, that does increase it impacts every single resident, and that's beyond our control. We don't get to keep that money, unfortunately, but that's one of those things. With the lodge, I mean, that does stay within our region, which is a benefit to everyone. But if consensus is to go with Councillor Olson has suggested, with a no increase to the tax rate, and then drawing out of reserve, I guess I'll ask that hands up if that's consensus regarding that. It looks like you have your answer, Mr. Neal. So that may impact us in the years coming after, but that's I don't disagree with any of the sentiments that have been shared. Thank you for that.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just one last comment.
Okay.
We'll certainly proceed that direction. Your comment on it affecting future years is probably very apropos, because at the fact that if you look at how we've been moving forward, we've been using the existing year's tax revenue collected and trying to match that the next year as we go. So if we lower our tax revenue requirement this year by 50,000, we're starting 50,000 less in 2022.
Yeah,
so
that's correct. Yeah. Not our problem. Perhaps, maybe, if we don't run. Anyway, I shouldn't say that. That's not.
But no, that's good. We'll move forward under that direction.
And I agree with the whole COVID thing. There's a lot of people affected very negatively, and if we can, whatever we can do to help, I think is certainly in line with what's happening. Okay. Any further questions, Councillor Bowden? My screen is just changing left, right, and center. Everybody else's? Okay.
Yeah, mine's bouncing all over.
Okay, Laurie, stop it.
The other question I had, and I'm sorry that Councillor Campion is gone, but it had to do with the regional waste, what the $34,800 was going towards. I think I kind of know the answer, but.
Well, Yeah, Councillor Bowden, I don't think it's going to anything specific. Basically, when they prepared their budget and passed their budget in December, they have a formula in terms of how they collect their revenue from their members. And it's based on assessment and it's based on the population. So their budget overall went up probably 10%. And we're picking up our share of that 10%. So somehow along the line, there was a miscommunication. We should have had this and should have known this earlier. But Councillor Campion didn't pass it along, or if he did, we didn't get it. And we just got our first requisition from them, from the Big Country Waste last week. And that's when I raised the question. So at the end of the day, we've got a new system in place for future years so that they will, when they approve their budget, they will send that requisition out to all municipalities. They send it to their members or like their representatives on the commission, but I don't know if it got shared. And Councillor Campion and I obviously miscommunicated that and didn't catch it until this invoice came in. So regardless, it wouldn't have changed anything. We don't have any control over that requisition, but the 32,000 that we need to collect, we would have been able to collect over the full year instead of the 8 months. But at the end of the day, that individual who's been in that house for the full year is going to pay the same. They're just going to pay more over 8 months than they would have. We would have been able to share it a bit better over the 12. So
I just had some individuals let me know that when they've dropped stuff over at Big Country Waste, it's considerably higher than it is by taking it north. And it even pays on long haul, big loads, that it even pays for the transportation and the fees taking it north than going into the one local.
So
when you say north, Councillor Bowden, what?
Coronation or?
Oh, okay, I see. Thank you. Yeah, because our waste transfer is north of town, so that's where I was confused. Okay, no, that's good. Thank you. Thanks for the clarification.
Northeast, yeah.
Yeah,
And
no,
so
the only comment again, Councillor Bowden, if people are commenting to you in regards to that cost and they're taking their waste elsewhere, certainly that's information that the Big Country Waste Commission should have, and they should be sharing that with the Big Country Waste Commission because they're the ones that are setting that budget and that operation, both on the revenue side and the expenditure side.
Yeah, I think it had something to do with special areas was affected as well. So I just thought I'd bring that forward.
Well, special areas, all the members of the Big Country Waste will be affected by this change. That 34,000 is our share. Special areas is the largest member in regards to assessment, so they would have been significantly impacted as well.
Yeah, I just thought I'd bring it forward. Thank you. That's all I had.
Any further questions, comments regarding the budget adjustments? All right, then we will bring that forward at our next council meeting. So with that, I would entertain a motion that council accepts for information the 2021 spring budget report dated April 28, 2021, and direct administration to bring the proposed 2021 operating and capital budget for review and approval at the May 11, 2021 regular council meeting. Thank you, Councillor Deadlock. All in favor? And that is carried. Let's take it back to 5.01, our CAO's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we've talked a lot about COVID today. Nothing's really changed. Grant updates. Just wanted you to be aware that recently the Green Municipal Fund just announced a new grant program called the Community Buildings Retrofit Initiative. We believe it will be a good fit for the community center project that was put on hold. So it looks like it's a program that addresses a couple of things. It addresses energy efficiencies, and it also addresses accessibility of the building. So if council remembers, when we went through the process last time, one of the keys was trying to increase handicapped accessibility of the building in the washrooms. So I think it fits that component really well. And I think there's some things we can do on the energy side too, that we can spice up the application to make it fit the criteria quite well. So information is just rolling out on it now. We're trying to get the information we can. We have reached out to MPE and who did the initial work last time on it. And we may be contracting them to do provide us with some of the information on this grant. Just the technical words we need and the technical direction to make the application have as much success as possible. The interesting part about this one is it looks like it's an 80-20 split. So 80% coming from the Green Municipal Fund and 20 would be expected to come from the municipality. So, you know, a significant opportunity here for some dollars that we're going to be pursuing on that project. So we just wanted to let you be aware that we're aware of that grant, and we're moving down the road to see how we can incorporate it and move that project off the back burner onto the front shelf and address it. Couple things.
Just a question regarding, so it's provincial funding, is it?
Well, Green Municipal Fund is kind of a group that's associated with FCM, and they get their dollars. It's primarily federal funding. So
yeah, okay, good. And we do have some dollars in reserve for this project, or
not anymore, Mr.
Okay.
Well, I shouldn't say that. So we did take a good chunk of what we had allocated to that project in MSI to the second 400 block home hardware block of water and sewer.
I told you to leave it alone. Yeah.
It's the easiest. But that's saying we do have, I think we had somewhere in the neighborhood of $400,000 carry forward of MSI from 2020. So, and then 2021, 22. So I would still envision as we move forward that we would probably still try to use those sources as our matching. And certainly once we nail down the scope of the project and cost again, we certainly would want to have that discussion with special areas in terms of whether there's a partnership there that they'd want to step in and share that 20%. So I'm quite optimistic that it's a good opportunity that we're going to go down that road. So,
well, 20-cent dollars are always good.
Yes.
Councillor Bowden?
I was just wondering if some of the existing work that MPE has done will be utilized. I'm assuming it will, but and also whether or not it covers professional fees, and when, if funds are available, when it would be announced, whether it's successful.
Good question, Councillor Bowden. As far as what it covers, we're going through what are eligible expenditures at this point in time. Just, I guess, in terms of that project, council had allocated dollars towards the design and conceptual plan, and there's still, I believe, 51,000 remaining we've put in reserve, so we can use those funds as well to move it forward. But as far as announcements in terms of when we can expect timing, I don't think there's anything out there in that regard at this point. And it sounds like it will be, they call it a contribution versus a grant, which in my mind basically means if we spend $300,000 on a component or on a phase, then we can then bill that back. So it's not, they're not going to give us $1 million in advance. They might award us $1 million, but as we spend it, they will pay for it. So not sure on the timing. I would be surprised, Councillor Bowden, if there's anything we would move forward. It would be probably a 22 project, probably at the earliest in terms of actual physical construction of anything. So
yeah, so they didn't give a date for
No.
announcing. Okay.
no,
Thank you.
it's just a kind of a first come, first serve, and
Sounds good.
we'll roll it out. So, but we do think we'll need to draw on some expertise just to make sure we hit the right spots to hit the grant appropriately. So
Any idea what that might?
no, we're getting
Not
some
at this point.
costs. We're getting some costs on that as we speak. So, but I don't think it will be significant because a lot of the work had been done, a few years ago. So taking that work, reviewing that work in terms of costs, in terms of the plan, and then it would be trying to see if there's some additional things that weren't in that plan that we need to address in this plan to hit their targets of energy efficiencies and accessibility. So,
Thank you.
so last thing, I just want to do a quick update on our tax recovery. So based on the direction from council at the last meeting, we have sold 105 6th Avenue East for $27,500, including GST. So slight increase from the previous offer. I believe the owners take possession mid-May, and that'll be one more property that is back into somebody else's hands. And Cactus Corridor, Mark and I have been working on Central Meat building, and we've talked. There's a couple of other buildings that potentially need some demolition. So Mark has prepared an RFP, and we've put it on the Alberta Purchasing Connection, basically looking for proposals from hazard abatement material or assessment companies to come in, look at the buildings that we have, and provide us with their assessment on what's in there for hazardous materials that would need to be removed. That's kind of the first step in the demolition process. Mark believes that there may be some funding for demolition of at least the Central Meat property at minimum, because the town owns it from WED. So he's been having discussions with them. So we're trying to fulfill through that process and see what we can do. And I believe Mark has had some discussion with some potential developers who would be interested in developing a new building on that site. And if so, I think Mark believes that that will be a key component to WED providing some funding for the demolition, is if we can say, if we get this building demolished, we have an agreement with someone to construct a new facility. He thinks that will be a good sale. We've also thrown in a couple other privately owned buildings at this point in time, and we'll see what the RFPs comes back in terms of costs, and then we'll have some discussion with the private owners and with WED again, whether we can move forward with that. So and I think those RFPs close in the middle of May. So that's where we're at there. And we still will have the one residential property on Fox Lake Trail that we recovered through tax recovery that we have not had any offers on at this point in time. So I know Mr. Wallace is talking to a few people and working with some people in terms of some offers. And my direction to him has been, if you think the lot's worth $30,000 or $20,000, great. But I think the priority from council is basically to have it sold. And, I don't want to say no matter what the price is, but we'd be willing to accept a lower offer with a condition that the property be demolished and cleaned up, within 3 months or 6 months time period. I think that's our biggest concern. I think it's council's biggest concern, not necessarily is the return on the price, but to get the property cleaned up and respectable again. So I know Mr. Wallace is having some discussions and working through that. So hopefully we'll be able to move that one. But I think the Central Meat property is, we're looking down the direction of this point in terms of demolition, and hopefully something new going on that corner. It's a great location for property to be at. Again, the trouble with the downtown lots is they're very narrow. So even if you're going to build something there, you've got a 30-foot wide lot is all you have to work with. So.
Councilor Bowden?
I was just wondering what the two private properties are and why we're looking at doing that for private property.
Well, I think I don't really want to mention, Councillor Bowden, who the private property owners are, just out of, consideration for them. But we won't be moving forward with them in terms of the RFP, in terms of any costs for hazard material, unless they are prepared to pay that cost, and or we get confirmation from WED that they would be considering able to fund that. We're not going to put any town dollars in or Cactus dollars in those private businesses, but we're hoping that maybe WED will see the benefit and we can get some funding, which will assist the private owners, but it will also assist the town, because those properties could ultimately become town properties similar to the Nash and Central Meat down the road. So
thank you.
That's it then, Kim?
It is, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, okay. Any questions for CA O'Neill? All right, thank you for that. Appreciate it. I would entertain, do you need a motion for that? That doesn't look like it. All right, that's good. It just wasn't that important, I guess. Just kidding. All right, that takes us to item 7, council roundtable. I'll just go by order of my screen, which probably will be changing as we speak because somebody likes to be in control. Thanks, Larry. Let's go with Councillor Deadlock, followed by Councillor Stickle. Councillor Deadlock.
I haven't been doing much of anything, so everything's pretty quiet right now.
Okay, Andy, thank you. Any questions for Councillor Deadlock? Okay, thank you for that. It takes us to Councillor Stickle, then Councillor Olson. Councillor Stickle, the floor is yours.
Not much to report. Things are back to normal at Palliser. The COVID is, I guess, negative. So the lodge hasn't changed anything there. So.
Any questions for Councillor Stickle? Councillor Bowden.
Yes, I'm just wondering how the new manager is doing in the lodge.
She's doing great.
Okay, I just had heard that there is some contract work that is being contracted out of Hannah area when some of the contractors have normally done the work, and just wondering if that is
what kind of contract work?
Some quotes and stuff on the roof, and I believe it has gone to, there's been a few things that have gone to Coronation, brought them in, just.
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, that is basically what I've been told. Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions for Councillor Stickle? Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Stickle. That takes us to Councillor Olson, followed by Councillor Bowden. Councillor Olson, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got no real updates. We just keep crossing our fingers that schools still stay open in Hannah.
Exactly. Any questions for Councillor Olson? Okay, thank you. I do have a comment. It looks like the golf course is in full swing. 18 holes are open and things look fairly well, I guess. Councillor Olson?
Yep. Yeah, all 18 are going. Things are dry. So I hope when people are out there smoking, they're aware that they're not throwing cigarette butts. That historically has never been a problem all year anyways, but I think that's all it would take to cause a pretty big problem. There's a handful of new volunteers that are still carrying on with mowing and whatnot. I noticed a few people kind of getting trained on running pieces of equipment up there. So yeah, things are moving. People are happy to get outside. So far, nothing's changed for the golf course as of June 2020, I think, was the latest update for any changes there, and it just keeps carrying on.
Let's hope we don't follow Ontario's plan. They've shut down golf courses there, so just I don't get it. But anyway, okay, yeah. Thank you for that. Okay, Councillor Bowden.
Yes, I kind of put out a formal invitation for the trustee for the JCC to come forward regarding any discussion on the new K-6 curriculum, and just thought maybe it might be of interest to council to find out what the consensus is for the school board regarding the pending curriculum. Other than that, I have no other information.
Okay, Councillor Olson, you have a question?
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if Councillor Bowden had seen the one release they did, there's a Google document of all the school boards and their evaluations of it. And as of, I think 63 school boards on that document, there's been 39 to 40 that have already said no. I think there was only one yes on that whole thing. I don't know how official that is, but it's just an accumulated document from all the releases that all the school boards have done, divisions.
Yeah, I think I had, I was talking to one of the trustees and they said the president of the school board council has been very active in doing a lot of work on it. And I just thought maybe it might be of interest to council that once the teachers have had a chance to report to the superintendent, that it may be of interest to find out what their response is, so that we're all kind of on the same playing field and that council can support them for whatever decision they are looking at. So that was basically my intent. Thank you. I appreciate that, council.
And that's it for your report then, Councillor Borden?
Oh yeah, I've talked enough. Haven't I?
No, that's fine. Any questions for Councillor Bowden? Okay, thank you for that. I've been quite quiet. Well, on the mayor's. Oh yes, sorry, Councillor Deadlock.
Did you want to hear anything from?
Oh, there you are. I'm sorry. See, that's what happens when Lori does what she does. Stop moving my screen around. Sorry, Councillor Jensen. My deepest apologies. Sorry. Yes, go. It's terrible.
I don't really have a lot. Just the library was approved for Canada Summer Jobs. 3 positions were approved. So we are just hopeful that at some point in time we can open and do something with those 3 positions. But that's good news.
Awesome. That's really good. 3 is actually huge. Yeah. Director Snell, you had a question, comment?
Thank you, Mayor Warwick. Just a comment for Councillor Jensen. Our FCSS regional meeting yesterday. There is a movement by the FCSS directors in East Central region for sure to ask the government to look at libraries as essential service because of the impact on access to internet and computers. They're seeing there's a very marginalized part of the community that can't access technology because the libraries are closed. So I just thought that was interesting coming forward and thought it would be worthwhile to share with Councillor Jensen as well as the rest of council.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Deadlock had a question for Councillor Jensen.
Yes, Councillor Jensen, I have a whole bunch of books. I'm not sure if the library is able, I know they're not able to accept them, but I was thinking maybe the board could give some thought into having a very large book sale. I think I have 6 garbage bags full. I don't know if that would be possible. They've been quarantined for the last 4 months, but something that you might want to bring up to the board. I would love to donate them.
Yes, absolutely. I know right now the library is not able to do anything. We had some discussions about even just bringing some pamphlets to the next farmers market, and we are not even able to do that. We're not supposed to encourage anything that promotes gathering of any sort. So as soon as we have a little lift, we'll be able to do something, and I'll certainly bring that forward for consideration once we can actually do something.
Perfect. I will keep them in storage.
Thanks.
Awesome. Any further questions for Councillor Jensen? Okay, thank you for that. And again, I apologize deeply. That's just horrible. Okay, yeah, for me, I was very quiet on the mayor front, busy at work. There was another podcast that was released, and I will send the link to that. Again, it was done by a gentleman out of Colorado, I think it was. So I'll send the link to that. It's okay. It's not as good as the previous one, but it's interesting. Same thing, just regarding coal mines closing and all that kind of stuff. So if with that, is there any questions for me? Yes, Mr. Neal.
Not a question, Mr. Mayor, just a comment, just so council's aware. And I meant to bring this up earlier in terms of COVID, just so we're aware that as of yesterday, Hannah Special Areas 2 has 6 active cases, so it's been fairly stable. We were down to 3 Now we've had 3 new cases in the last 3 or 4 days. So I'm hoping that a couple of the active cases that we have should come off the active case here by the end of the week. And Councillor Olson probably knows, I was told unofficially, and it's probably official, that there is a case in school. So whether that's gonna cause any impacts, unfortunately, we just can't seem to get rid of it or get it under control, and keep hoping that number is going to drop here. I know we can't expect it to drop everywhere else. I guess being the competitive person I am, I want to be able to tell people we have 0, and I'm hoping we get there sooner than later. So I don't know if there's any comment, Councillor Olson, from the school. I understand a letter has been sent, so it is fairly official, I guess.
Yeah, they sent out a letter to all parents saying there was 1 positive case in the school and that close contacts were going to be contacted by the school or AHS and given instructions. So our phone never rang, so we were happy that it didn't involve us. So yeah, just hopefully nothing crazy happens with it.
Approximately how many days ago was that, Councillor Olson? Just curious.
2.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
which is Monday.
Monday you got the letter?
Yes.
Okay.
Ish. Yeah.
So yeah, just wanted to let you know that, it's stable. I still think our numbers are good here, but hopefully we keep them down and we can get out of this quickly.
The beauty is it's self-policing because nobody wants to be that person. So we're lucky that way. That's good. So is there any further questions, comments? Sorry, my phone keeps ringing. Director Armstrong. You're muted. Yeah, there you go. Technology.
Right after adjournment, Your Worship, could a few people stay on, and could you please try to move your bubble somewhere?
Yeah, I tried moving mine and it just tells me that you're in control.
It
Just
works
recently?
Oh, okay, now it works. Yeah, so it's fine. It said my screen was being controlled by you eventually is what it said. But now it works, so.
I'm just
Yeah.
trying to get the YouTube layout better.
Oh, I see.
But
Right.
it doesn't change. No matter what I do, it doesn't change. And then sorry, I was in control of all of you and I didn't.
That's fine. That just made it exciting. Okay, so if there's no further comments, okay, Councillor Stickle.
I just got to add, Acadia. At our last meeting, I brought forward an idea to help fill our lodge, the empty rooms. Like we have 10, 12 rooms seem consistently empty. And I brought forward the idea of taking 1 floor on 1 wing and transferring into SL4 dementia. Now I talked with the doctors. They're very upbeat. They think that'd be a great idea. I talked to Nate Horner. He's in agreement. The board is all in agreement. So we have sent a letter to the government. It's in the hands of a lady up there that's looking it over, and she's going to get back to us. So I will be keeping you informed of what's happening there, but everybody seems to be in agreement. So possibly this may be a way of keeping the lodge full, and there are people that are on the waiting list now that could certainly use something like this. So
right,
everybody seems to be in favor. So
Councillor Stickle, I know a few years ago, Katie was looking at something along that line down in Oyen. Was that ever successful or completed?
Yes. That was a $4 million project.
Right.
And it's the government. What happened there is the government gave Acadia $4 million, said build, and they wanted to see 20 rooms, 10 for SL4 and 10 additional lodge. But they've been back and forth, and it's tough to find a builder that'll build that big of a project for $4 million. So they're right now just hassling back and forth. We may end up with 12 rooms, 8 for SL4 and 4 additional lodge.
Awesome.
It's just kind of in the, but it is a go ahead. So
good deal. Yeah, that's good to hear. Thank you for that. That's awesome. Any further comments, questions? Okay, having said that, I will pass on to Director Mole our condolences on the loss of your father-in-law. I heard that last week, so I'm sorry about that. And with that, you're welcome. And with that, at 10:28, I will declare all business is complete and this meeting adjourned. Thank you. Good job, folks.